So first of all, I'd like to thank IMI for giving me an opportunity to talk about my life with type 1 diabetes. I am passionate about using my personal experiences as both a patient and an Inodia employee to make positive changes in the diabetes community. Can I have the next slide, please? It was 1987 and I was in boarding school, heading the end of the school year, when I started developing symptoms I obviously did not recognize as being symptoms for type 1 diabetes. Weeks went by till a girl from school, from my dorm, told me, "I think you have diabetes." And I went back home on Friday with this theory, and my parents waved it away as being a flu. And I went back to school for yet another week away from home. Till once my father noticed I suddenly lost a lot of weight in only 1 week, and then an alarm went off. Can I have slide 3, please? I was tested by our family physician, and the devastating call came the very same evening: type 1 diabetes. That was 1 day before my 16th birthday, on which I was scheduled for my exam to get accepted to the Conservatory of Music. But given the fact that I was still alive after so many weeks of not feeling well, I figured 1 day would not make the difference anymore, and I was determined to do as planned. But with a sugar level of 640, that was of course against the will and recommendations of the doctors and my parents. Yet, stubborn as I am, armed with 6 bottles of water, I went to Leuven, took the exams all day long, and after that, my father rushed me to the hospital, where I received my first insulin injection on my 16th birthday. So I always think that I probably have had the sweetest 16 ever. Can I have the next slide, please? My parents had the best intentions, but they did not know how to deal with this. So there was no communication at all, about none whatsoever. So led away acceptance. All I remember from when I was admitted to the hospital is a nutritionist telling me what I could and especially what I could not eat anymore. On the day of my release, I remember I received 2 documents: a list of forbidden foods and information about when and how to inject my 2 different kinds of insulin. Needless to say that my management was very poor, and accordingly in the beginning. This is to me a proof that education is really a key component of diabetes care. And to me, diagnosis comes with 2 kinds of communication: between the healthcare professionals and the affected families, but also between the parents and the child, for whom the world is suddenly turned upside down overnight. Something to think about. But that was 1987, and a lot has changed in the meantime. Education has improved tremendously and has been increasingly recognized as an important part of the disease. We now have specialized diabetes teams supporting newly diagnosed people, providing information, guiding patients about which diabetes devices are on the market and would be best for them to use. And this is crucial to help improve patient skills and knowledge on the condition, and enables them to make some beneficial changes in their own treatment. Next slide, please. These are a few of my first devices. I've used the whole 9 yards over the past 3 decades. Syringes, insulin pens, insulin pumps becoming smaller over the years, wireless pumps, you name it, I've used it. Meaning, I've seen huge medical and technological advances and integration of mobile software and apps, definitely improving the quality of care. I could spend more time on explaining the device I'm currently using, but I choose not to, because there were a few questions from registrants about diabetes and mental health, which I personally believe deserves even way more attention than technology. Next slide, please. But despite all those improvements like education, technical advancements, and even peer support, internet, diabetes to me remains very challenging and a very stressful disease. We've heard it before, but I say it again, diabetes is indeed a full-time job, and it's a lifelong condition with no days off. A diagnosis of the disease has a significant impact on the individual's life and can even lead to a number of emotional responses. People have no idea what goes on in my mind when it concerns my chronic disease. Even some of my closest friends have no clue how much time and thinking this condition absorbs in my life. Here are a few terms that come to mind when I think about the consequences. Next slide, please. Shame, when I have a hypo at the wrong time, wrong place. For example, drinking a sip of Coca-Cola in the supermarket aisle before I even paid for it because I have a hypo. Or when I'm exposing my sensor in my arm and my pump in my stomach during summertime and people are staring at me. Frustration, when I did everything I'm supposed to do and still have unexplainable bad glucose levels. Sadness, when someone makes once again a painful comment like, I'm sure after all those years of living with diabetes, things become easier for you, right? As if it's not a big deal anymore. It's not a big deal anymore. Anger, when once I was hired somewhere and immediately lost that job again because I took the wrong decision not to tell people. There's the shame again. And fear I would not get the job. I was told that I was probably going to be sick all the time and out of the office for hospital visits. For your information, I sued the company and I won on ground of discrimination. Not that this made me feel so much better because this case took a lot of energy and I still lost my job, which is a good example of one of the many, many stigmas around type 1 diabetes or diabetes in general. Guilt, when my running buddies wait for me during training because I stopped to prick my finger or because I need to eat something, because I have a hypo. It's their choice, I know, but still it's hard for me to accept. Exhaustion and even loneliness. When my alarm goes off in the middle of the night and I stumble to my kitchen cabinet for a cookie and a Coke, and by the time I solve my hypo, I'm wide awake again. In this moment, there are no friends, no peers, no pack, no doctors or family members support. The world is quiet and asleep while tackling all by myself another challenge that comes with the disease on a more than regular basis. The final two terms I'd like to mention are probably the ones with the most impact because both are always somewhere in the back of my mind. Anxiety for being punished on long term for all the times my management was poor. Concern and fear about who will take care of me when I grow old and I develop complications maybe. What if my partner is not alive anymore and my children live far away and I have a situation like I had one 2 days ago, one hypo after the other, 24 hours straight, eating carbs and drinking sugar, but I needed so much that I got sick to my stomach and the story repeated itself. What if I'm 70 and a similar situation occurs? What if? Therefore, I praise World Diabetes Day as a very crucial event, touching all aspects of the disease, raising awareness about stigmas and discrimination. People sometimes would ask me how I deal with it. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. The truth is, you never really do, but I try to run the marathon every now and then, and I raised some funds for Life for a Child in the past. I don't necessarily run long distances to prove the world that anything is still possible with diabetes, but more as a proof to myself, as if I need that kind of confirmation for me, even after 34 years of living with type 1 diabetes. But also, I feel very privileged and grateful for the access I have had all those years to professional care and medical devices. Let's not forget that many people worldwide still don't even have access to insulin, the basic substance to survive, let alone the devices to make their lives easier and more comfortable. And I'm not only talking about developing countries. Therefore, to me, raising extra funds is the least I can do. Because of my work at Inodia, I witness every day how thousands of global experts are working hard to address the illness, doing research to find out what exactly it is that causes the disease, providing personalized treatments, but most of all aim for prevention and in the long term, hopefully, a cure. I honestly don't believe I will live to see it because I have been made so many promises, but it's heartwarming and encouraging to witness the efforts and progression, and I trust that it will happen. Type 1 diabetes will one day be prevented and cured. Last but not least, I want to mention that I'm also a member of a small but utmost essential and vital part of Inodia, namely the Patient Advisory Committee. The PAC, as we call it, is a group of patients and close relatives determined to guarantee that the needs and concerns of the patients remain at the center of the Inodia project. The members of this committee act as T1D ambassadors. They help to keep focus on what matters most: people living with the disease every day of their lives. By bringing a powerful patient and family perspective into Inodia, the PAC helps ensure Inodia delivers a patient-centric approach. And as you will find out later, in the case of Inodia, patient-centric really means something special. Patient involvement will also be discussed later on. Thank you for listening to my story.